professional boxing is concerned, and he has a lot of ability and obviously a lot of potential.
All right, well, why don't we have a little longer look at Matthews in action? Here he is against Marvin O'Brien just last week in Cardiff.
Fifth round. Yes, we'll follow the career of Jason Matthews with some interest. I'm sure that they will be stepping up the grade of opposition as the months go by. All part of a fighter's education, of course, to pass the various tests, the different styles that are put in front of him. Good right hand from Matthews. O'Brien is just dropping his gloves a wee bit more now. I don't know if that's as a result of the rib-crunching shots that Matthews was putting in the last round. Now the gloves are up again.
O'Brien's still trying to make a bit of a fight. He's took some heavy punches around the body and the head from Matthews, and he's still in there, still trying to make a fight of it.
At this moment, you'd have to say not too many signs that Marvin O'Brien's long losing streak is going to end here. It's all Matthews now. And the gum shield coming loose. And the referee giving O'Brien the respite. And I think he'll be quite glad, actually, after the break. I don't know whether he spat the gum shield out deliberately. If he did, I'd say that was a good bit of gamesmanship myself.
Yes, at that time he was just trying to take a few punches from Matthews. Matthews just stepping up his work rate a little bit.
This is hard work in there for O'Brien now. And I'm sure he wishes that bell was the last one. Unfortunately for him, it isn't.
That's right, Matthews elected to stand in this round. He obviously feels quite fit. I would like to see him, rather than stand, I'd like to see him sit down, reserve a bit of energy and do a little bit more work in the next round. I think he could still pick the pace up a little bit. He's just coasted. He's winning well, and I think he's a little bit happy to do that. These are the fights where he's got to try and impress. He's got to try and get rid of guys like Marvin O'Brien.
Last round then. Jason Matthews in the red in a big points lead here. He's been teeing off really on O'Brien from about the third round on. A lot of the punches have landed on the gloves, but quite a few getting through. And O'Brien just doing his best to somehow get through. And he's got something like 1 minute and 50 seconds to last home now. Certainly these journeyman fighters who come in as the opponents for the prospects earn the money, don't they?
Yes, they do. But credit him to O'Brien. He has never really looked under heavy pressure. He's managed to fiddle about. He's managed to do a good bit of survival technique. He's managed to throw punches when Matthews is starting to load up a bit, just to keep Matthews off balance.
There's never been a point where O'Brien has looked as if he was on the verge of going down.
And most of the time, O'Brien has managed to keep his hands up. So although he's losing on a big losing streak, he's still putting up a relatively decent performance. He's under a bit of pressure now from Matthews. He's going to try and hang on, see this round out.
Sixth and last round, and O'Brien, I think, would be pretty glad there's not a seventh. Some really hurtful-looking body shots going in there now, and O'Brien just looking a bit disorganized and holding on for dear life.
One step back.
Looks like Matthews will be forced to hear the final bell for only the second time in his young professional career. And there goes the final bell. Matthews, of course, has won it, and he will have won it big, but forced to go the whole distance for only the second time. The other one to last the distance with him was John Duckworth.
And he'll need a few fights like that. He needs to get a few rounds on his belt. He needs to get a little bit of experience, so this fight will be good for that.
5 fights, 5 wins for Jason Matthews of Hackney, and no sign yet of the big plans and hopes they have for him being derailed. Interesting to see how he progresses. He could be one to note for the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, the referee's scorecard at the end of the contest reads Jason Matthews, 60 points, Marvin O'Brien, 57 points, the winner, Jason Matthews.
And he won every round.
That was a 5th professional win in 5 starts for Jason Matthews. It's all still very new to him, though, this game, isn't it, Barry?
Yeah, but he handled O'Brien very well. O'Brien is a trial horse type fighter, difficult guy to beat inside the distance, as Robin knows. But, you know, he handled that well. And as I say, he is trying to be a little bit stiff and throws the same combinations. But as I say, he's only a baby in the professional game. He's coming through now. And he certainly is a prospect.
Glenn Catley, have you seen much of Jason Matthews?
Yeah, I've bought a few bills of Jason. I go along with exactly what Barry said. I think he's got an amateur style about him, and I'd like to see him under a bit more pressure. You know, I don't think he's been with anybody yet, which is quite rightly so. He's early in the game, which has been able to put him under any kind of pressure. That's the only question mark I can see with Jason Matthews.
How important is it for all you young fighters to actually just get rounds in the ring in professional boxing under your belt?
Just to get around under your...
To get a number of rounds, maybe, you know, and have 1 or 2 longer fights.
Right. How important is it? It is important, obviously, because higher up the rankings you get, the better fighters you're fighting. They're not so easy to stop.
I think that's right. I think he's absolutely right there, because you need a fight that's going to bring you into 3, 4, 5 rounds, because you've already done 3 hard rounds as an amateur. You need to know for self-confidence and self-esteem that you can go maybe 4 or 5 rounds. Isn't that right?
That's right. Absolutely, yeah. It's a completely different game to the amateur game, 3-minute rounds. I mean, now you're doing 6, 8, 10 rounds, fighting for the titles, 12 rounds. It is a completely different ball game.
But there is a trade-off as well. If you, like, as we'll talk about your own career a little later, if you're getting a quick stoppage record, that must do tremendous things for your confidence, and it must have done things for Matthews' confidence to this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does do great booster for your confidence, as you say. But I would like to go a distance of, you know, or go a few more rounds perhaps, but you don't get paid for overtime if he's there. If you can stop him, then you get on with the job, don't you?
Nicely put. Now, Robin, what about Jason Matthews? He's expressed his admiration for you.
Yeah,
would you care to return the compliment?
Well, as you can see, he's a big, strong, powerful looking middleweight. He's obviously got power there in both hands, natural power. I would have to agree with Barry and Glenn and say that the fact that he's a bit too stiff, a bit too upright. I mean, I'd like to see him against some, you know, opposition, maybe like myself, but I think that'd be further on down the line myself. You know, someone who can, with a good defense, who can take them big shots, and maybe in the latter stage of the fight, when he's so used, like you just stressed on that point about, you know, knocking people out in the early rounds, you find like with Jason Matthews that like you can get set in your ways that you're so used to knocking people out in the first few rounds. When it comes to 6, 7, 8 rounds, you're throwing all your best shots, you know, and the other fighter's defending, you know. It's a mental thing as well. You think, oh, what's going on here, you know? And I think that's when another fighter will be able to take over in the second, you know, the latter stages of the fight.
I have also heard Matthews say very briefly, Glenn, that he's